Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a Kickstarter preview. This one is for Valhalla. It's from Go On Board Games. We are Jarls in charge of a Viking clan doing combat with everyone else at the table.
Yes, so we are Vikings. We'll be using battle tactic cards and other Viking warriors to do battle with each other and, in all hopefulness, go to Valhalla.
That's right. So the idea behind the game is to try to kill your warriors, because each of these warriors is going to have glory points that are associated in the bottom left-hand corner of each of these cards. When they're killed, they're going to go to the right-hand side of your player board, and that's going to represent Valhalla, or victory points, at the end of the game. Depending upon the number of players, certain things are worth certain victory points. In a two-player game, both our warriors that are killed and the Viking shields that we've killed of other players are worth victory points. As the game expands, you have more players. The Viking shields that you keep on your own side are also worth victory points. Each player at the start of the game is going to start with 4 of these Viking shields, and it's one of the 2 in-game triggers.
The other in-game trigger is that you run out of all the cards in the deck here that you'll be drawing from.
So the deck is going to consist of both Vikings, and it's also going to consist of some of these battle tactics cards. There's 120 cards in the base game, and there's a mixture of both those warriors and those tactics cards. When you look at the cards themselves, though, each of these Vikings is going to have a picture of the Viking on it, of course, and then it's going to have a number of strength in the upper left-hand corner. Plus, it's going to have a color associated with that Viking. These are going to represent the 4 different types of clans. You have like Boar clan in here. Some of these cards are going to interact with the same type of clan. Some of them are going to interact with other types of clans. Also, when you look at these cards, they're going to have a number of different skills or weapons on the left-hand side of the card. This is because the dice are 6-sided and they're associated with each of these different types of skills. This is a dice rolling game. You're going to be using your dice. You're going to be rolling them every turn and trying to match those dice facings with the skills that are on the left-hand side of the card.
Yeah, and those will also work when you're defending against an attack.
Exactly. Also, there's going to be tactics cards. So you're going to get a mixture of warriors and tactics cards in your hand. There's a variety of different tactics cards. These are kind of like the instants in Magic or any of those other card games that you've played. They're used to surprise your enemies. They're usually played for free, and they do something. They give you more dice, so they allow to change the facing of your dice. There's a whole variety of those within the game itself. To start the game, we're each going to start with a player board. We're going to start with 4 shields of our color. Starting with the first player and going counterclockwise, you're going to pick one of the warriors that are seated at the start of the game. You're going to lay them on your player board. Then we're each going to draw 7 cards into our hand and keep 5 of those cards. Also, each of us is going to start with 1 Jarl, our leader. You're going to draw 3 of these Jarls, and you're going to pick one of them, and there's a whole mess of these that are included in the game.
Yeah, they're pretty neat, and they're all going to have both a primary and a secondary ability. There are 2 types. There's one that is going to be an either or, and then there is...
Yeah, the other type of Jarl card is you have to do one or the other. The top is always available for both of the different types of Jarls. The ones that have the plus symbol, the bottom portion is only available if you meet certain requirements. And they're both can be used at the same time if those requirements are met. And there are a lot of different Jarls just in the base game. The game is very, very simple to play. Once we each have our 5 cards in our hand, we get a number of actions. You have a set of A actions and then a B action. There's 4 actions that you can take on your turn, 1 of 4 different actions. And then there's always a final action that you get to take.
Right, so the first action is you're just going to choose a card from your hand or a warrior from your hand, and you're just going to play it right to the board.
Yep. That's really about the most basic thing you can do. There's no summoning cost. There's nothing you have to expend from your hand in order to do that. You're simply bringing that warrior into play. The second option that you can do is you can play 2 warriors, but there is a caveat to doing that. You're going to look at your cards, and some of these cards have a variety of skills along the left-hand side. Some of these have 1 skill, some of them have 4 skills that you're trying to meet because they all provide different powers. You can bring 2 cards into play as long as the total value of skills equals 3 or less. In this case, I have a 1 skill and then a 2 skill. You're not looking at the numbers, but you're looking at the skills over here on the left. I can actually bring both of these guys into play. And again, there's no summoning cost. You just bring them directly into play on your player board as long as you have room in order to summon them. The next action is to actually do combat. And I'll talk about combat because it's probably the most intense thing to do. So you can choose at any time on your turn, instead of doing those other actions, to actually do combat with another player. And you're looking around the table. You can have combat with anybody. You're looking at your player board because these are the possible people that could go into combat with you. You're going to roll 6 dice no matter how many warriors that you bring along with you. You're going to roll these dice up, and you're going to choose any number of them to slot on the skills of the warriors that you have. Now, If you don't roll very well, you can always expend one of your dice, throw it out of the game, and then choose any number of these dice to re-roll. And you can keep doing that, throwing a dice out, re-rolling, throwing a dice out, re-rolling, in an effort all to try to slot warriors with these particular types of weapons. Each of these warriors require either spears or bows or axes or shields or swords, a variety of different types of combinations that you'll have to use. Once you are done slotting that, you then add up the strength of the warriors that are participating. Now there's a variety of different cards here that also have their own innate abilities. I'll talk about one of them. This one here, as you look, there you have a little red symbol. That means your opponent. This one says if your opponent has a green defender on their player board, I'm adding 3 strength to this combat no matter what, even if they're not participating in the combat. Anything that you see on red thing means your opponent. Now, there's also cards that have the black on them as well.
Yes, and those are going to be for you yourself. So in this particular case, we've got one who says if I have 1 yellow clan, I'm going to be able to add 2 combat strength, and then if I have 2, then I'm going to be able to add 5.
You can also build a variety of different warriors because there are cards here that add for strength for different types of clans on your player board. So again, when you choose these cards, you're looking at the cards in your hand, you're looking at the cards that you have in play already, and trying to find the best combination. Once that strength is determined, you're going to look at your opponents, and then they get to roll 6 dice as well. And they're also throwing dice out, slotting them to their particular warriors. And you have the ability to use battle tactics cards as well. Battle tactics cards, again, are going to sway battle. They're surprise cards. You can use those to add strength, to reroll dice. There's a variety of different things that can be used with those particular cards. Once the strength is determined, you're going to determine a winner. If it is equal, the attacker is going to win. If the attacker has more strength than the defender, the attacker is going to win. And then vice versa. If the defender has more strength than the attacker, the defender is going to win. If the attacker wins, it's very simple. Any of the cards that participated or had dice on those slots and added to the strength of that combat are going to be sent to Valhalla. You simply take those cards that participated, you're going to turn them upside down and put them to the right side of your player board. Those are pure victory points for glory. Now, if the defender wins, they're going to choose any of the cards that participated in that combat as well, and they can also send them to Valhalla, but they don't have to. It's different than the attacker. All the attackers have to go to Valhalla. The defenders can choose to stay there and possibly build up for a larger turn.
Okay, so if Jeremy attacks me and wins, he's going to take one of my shields and stick it over here, so it's saying he took my victory point there. And then if I win, I don't get a shield. That's just it.
Obviously, being attacker is going to earn you those shields, and those shields in a 2-player game are worth 2 victory points, and it's also one of the end-game triggers. The final action that you can actually take in a turn, if you don't decide to do combat, is actually to draw cards.
Yeah, so you draw 2 cards from the pile. You're going to look at them, choose one, and put one into the discard pile.
And then the final thing you're going to do always on your turn is that same action. You're going to draw 2 cards. You're going to choose one of those cards, put it into your hand, and throw the other one into the discard pile. Again, going through that draw deck and depleting it 100% is also going to be one of the end-game triggers. Once one of those 2 end-game triggers has occurred, you're going to tally up victory points. It's very simple. Any of the shields that you've collected from other players are worth victory points, and all the cards that are off to the right-hand side of your player board are also worth victory points according to the glory associated with those cards. That's all the victory points in the game. However, there's a whole slew of different expansions that are included in this game. 8, in fact. And there's things from fire giants to dwarves to Odin to Loki. A variety of different cards. In fact, hundreds of additional cards that you can add in to this particular deck. Even player boards and additional boards that will be introduced that are going to add a lot of variety in the game. So you're never playing the same game twice.
Yeah, and I really like the art in the game. It really immerses you in the whole Viking culture and the lore of everything. And so my favorite actually is the ice giants, and I really like their ability to taking dice away. I tend to like to mess with the person I'm playing with, so it allows me to do that as well.
Yeah, the art in this game is fantastic. Please go check out their Kickstarter for all the final components. There's going to be a lot of stuff included. If you guys have any questions about the game, make them in the comments below. Please remember to subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and everything else that we do. And we'll catch you guys next time.